in the woods of North America and around the world is a creature that has captured the imagination of humankind for, I would dare say, the entire time that we've been around. I'm talking, of course, about Bigfoot. People might also refer to this creature as Sasquatch, Harryman, Oma, skunk ape, the Yeren. One has to ask themselves, why do we care so much about a creature that's been undiscovered? Is it because it's the last great mystery that we have in our world, a world that we live in that is so covered in technology, where the information of the ages is available at our fingertips, literally by our phones, our computers, but yet the legends and the tales and the sightings tell us that there is something out there that has yet to be really discovered. And so today we'll be talking about the mystery of Bigfoot and why it captures us as a culture. First, let's talk about what exactly is Bigfoot. There's so many different ways to look at this creature. And let's start by thinking about what is said by the witnesses when they see this creature. Usually it's a tall bipedal type creature, so it's standing on two legs, and it can be anywhere from 7 or 8 feet tall all the way up to 12 or 13 feet tall. And a lot of those reports that I get will be up in the northern regions of the world, especially Alaska and northern Canada. There are many different reports or variants of reports that one can get when people are talking about what the Sasquatch actually looks like in the face. And there's some similarities. There's usually a conical type shape head, sagittal crest that one can see. There's usually a brow line that is extending over the eyes. The entire body is usually covered with hair except for the face. Sometimes if you can see the actual skin, the skin is a grayish color. Usually when let's say hunters or people that are looking at the Bigfoot through different means, and they're able to see the subject really up close through that scope, they usually are not able to pull the trigger to capture the specimen, which is another discussion in itself. But usually they're looking at the face of the creature, and although it's ape-like, it also has a certain human-like characteristic in a way that many people have not been able to pull the trigger because there's something inside of themselves that says, don't do this. You don't know exactly what this creature is. It seems too human. I think that there is more to this creature than meets the eye. When an individual sees Bigfoot, they can see it in many different colors. And I should say more the color of the hair on the creature. Most reports I get will range anywhere from black hair to cinnamon. In a few, there's certain regions of the U.S., as in Alabama with the Alabama white thing, where the creature is seen with a white hair. Also in northeastern Pennsylvania, in the, I want to say, Scranton-Carbondale area, there are reports over the years of a white Bigfoot being seen in that area. Now, there are also reports that you can see where the creature is said to have red hair. And I get quite a few of those. Usually these red hair creatures are said to be more aggressive, which leads us to an interesting part of the discussion, which is Bigfoot a friendly creature or an aggressive and not to be messed with creature? I think the answer lies there with, is a bear an aggressive creature or a friendly creature? Is any animal kind or aggressive? I think it has a lot to do with the area that the creature or the Bigfoot lives in. If mankind is taking away its habitat, there's a lot of reports that I will take where the creature has started to get more aggressive, and that's because the landowner has started to clear out their property, cutting out all the trees, creating all these trails through the property. And I've taken reports recently in the Uwharrie National Forest part of North Carolina, and also there was a Tennessee report where a landowner moved out from Nashville into Wilson County, started building a runway for their airplane, cutting down lots of brush. And to be quite frank, when we take away the habitat of the Sasquatch or the Bigfoot, that's when they start to become very angry. So I can see how some reports are shown as the creature being aggressive, while some of them are more the forest protector or the kind creature. Another interesting thing that has been reported is sometimes the tracks of the creature are different types of toe numbers, right? So usually when there is an aggressive creature, especially in the Pacific Northwest or Alaska, you can see there's a four-toed footprint. And I'm speaking specifically about reports I've taken from the Prince of Wales Island in southeastern Alaska. Talking to a gentleman who was a Salvation Army worker a while back, he shared what he has heard from residents of Prince of Wales Island in Alaska. And there's supposedly different groups of Sasquatch there. The four-toed aggressive ones will war against the non-four-toed or non-aggressive ones. And supposedly from the inhabitants of the island, they will say that is why people go missing in that area. Many interesting things that will happen. People will go missing. There will be huge tree trunks that will be uprooted from out of the ground and put upside down into the ground so that the root structure is just sticking up into the air. The reports come in from everywhere. And I've been doing the Bigfoot Society podcast for almost 5 years. Daily, I'm getting multiple reports about Sasquatch or Bigfoot sightings from everywhere, from Tennessee, Oklahoma, the Pacific Northwest, roadside sightings where someone will be driving along in Oregon. They'll see an outstretched hairy arm as they pass by, or a hairy leg that's about to cross the road, or even a full roadside crossing where they see the animal go across the entire stretch of road in just a few steps. One might say, well, that's well and good, but I'm pretty sure that Bigfoot is only a creature that exists in 1967 when Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin were fortunate enough to take the now famous camera footage. And to that, I would say you are unfortunately very wrong, as this creature has been seen all over the world. There are reports of what is called Harryman. This creature has been seen in many different states as well, not just Northern California. It's been seen in places going from Florida with the skunk ape, which some people will say maybe looks more like an orangutan, to the forest of Missouri, to the southeast corner of Oklahoma, where there's a huge research effort being put on over years by the NAWAC, or the North American Wood Ape Conservancy. Also, one can go out to Montana, where people like Ken Metzger have been collecting DNA and have been having some very interesting results come back. So you'll want to keep an eye out on what Ken Metzger is doing in Montana with his efforts to prove Bigfoot. There's also been many reports that have been captured from New Hampshire by people like Alex Petikoff, who is a well-respected Bigfoot researcher in the New England region of the United States. You may be thinking to yourself, well, that's well and good, but what's to say that this Bigfoot stuff is actually still happening today? Well, I can tell you within a shadow of a doubt that there is research going on right now all over the U.S. Right now we have people like Ron Reed, Tate Hieronymus out in the northern part of California in areas such as Bluff Creek trying to capture evidence with cameras, thermal imagers. There are researchers down in the state of Missouri, in the Ozark region, people like Shane Carpenter who are doing great work capturing tracks in that area that are incredible. There are people like Doug Shea and Todd Samples who, as recently as last year, were able to capture some incredible snow tracks in Northern California, the likes of which have never been captured before. The toes that you can see in these tracks are extremely well defined. And even more impressive is the amount of length between the tracks themselves in a way that Todd and Doug and others involved were not able to really replicate stepping between the tracks. So the evidence is still being captured, and one also has to realize that it's not just up to the researchers to be able to capture the evidence themselves. Anyone watching this presentation is able to go out and to have a audio recorder or a thermal camera or a regular video camera and to try to capture evidence themselves. There is no written law that says it needs to be a professional Bigfoot researcher. If you are lucky enough to be driving around or to be out in a wild area or maybe even in your backyard and to capture a sound of what you think is a Bigfoot, something that sounds like a whoop or a howl, or you hear a tree knock, or you see tracks that are 12 to 14 inches long and then that are barefooted, try to capture that evidence by taking a photo or taking audio recording and then reach out to people like myself. You can email me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. You can submit a report at places like the BFRO, bfro.net, or the Bigfoot Mapping Project. Because it's only through people gathering the evidence that hopefully one day we will actually get the answer that we are seeking, which is to figure out what this creature is. After all, are we really looking at an undiscovered great ape? Are we looking at an alien creature? Are we looking at some electrical phenomenon, something that is going in between different realities? For example, in Skinwalker Ranch out in Utah, way back before the current owners, there's a report that there would be portals that would open up on the ranch. And at one time, there was a Bigfoot-type creature that actually stepped out of this orb. And that's a situation that I cannot explain away as someone who is thinking that this creature is in the flesh and blood camp. I do want to take a few minutes to acknowledge that, yes, when it comes to Sasquatch reports, there are very interesting and unexplained things that will come up. And these are reports that sometimes may not even see the light of day, and you have to get personally from the witnesses. It's hard sometimes to find these online. But thankfully, in efforts of people like Stan Gordon from the southwestern corner of Pennsylvania in the Chestnut Ridge, he's captured many reports over the years about Bigfoot being seen in relation to UFO sightings or even alien-type creatures. Sometimes the UFO is seen and then the Bigfoot is seen a few days later. Sometimes they're seen together. Personally, I have no answers for why that phenomenon exists in that area and also other areas of the U.S. There's also been reports that I've taken where there's a group of researchers that were traveling through the woods, and all of a sudden they saw a blue orb floating in front of them, and they tried to focus in on the orb and figure out what was going on. They heard something behind them. Turning around, there's a Bigfoot there standing with outstretched arm, controlling the orb. Now, here's how I answer that. As you already know that I'm an individual that thinks Bigfoot is an undiscovered great ape. Well, what's to say that animals can't have weird or unexplained traits? I mean, you look at creatures like the duck-billed platypus. Look how that creature just has parts that defy comprehension. Also, look at a creature such as the echidna, where it actually has a sensor built into its snout that can detect electricity. If one creature can detect electricity, what's to say that another creature, such as a Bigfoot, could also be detecting a thing such as a game trail camera? One might start to pick up that, yes, I personally feel that when we talk about Bigfoot, we're looking at an undiscovered great ape. That is my personal opinion. There's many different pieces of information that I take to go into that route. There's stories that I've collected over the years. For example, a gentleman who was a firefighter during the 80s in the Mount St. Helens region of the Pacific Northwest, and he would tell me that every morning before they would start their activities, their chores, he would be sitting outside his tent and just looking over the valley, and the mist was coming off of the valley, and he would hear every morning without fail what can only be described as gibbon calls. And we both know, listener, you may not know, but now you know, there are no gibbons that actually live in the Pacific Northwest. But there is a creature called Sasquatch. There's been a recent article where gorillas have been proven to use a form of infrasound. This is a very interesting article. I would recommend that you find this article that came out recently. And we know that most witnesses will report that they will get almost a blast through them when the creature is around, almost like when you're going to the zoo and you experience a lion or a tiger. You know, these wildlife creatures, they have the ability to use what is called infrasound. And now we know that gorillas also have that ability as well. What's to say that if Bigfoot is an undiscovered great ape, they should have the ability to use that as well? People will ask me, well, what is your favorite Bigfoot evidence over the years? And of course, I do love the Patterson-Gimlin film, and I think that is the classic standard. But for me personally, what I think is incredible to look into and what should make us really think a few minutes about the validity of this creature is the work of the Olympic Project up in Washington State. And they have that area where they have seen the Sasquatch nests. And it's fascinating. They are these large ground nests that, a full-size human can lay down in, and an even bigger creature than that. And also they found a ridge around the same area where there can be almost a sentry watch out. So one can watch the nest to make sure that the safety is in place. But the cool thing about what the Olympic Project did is that they were able to bring a unnamed primatologist from National Zoo into that area. And the primatologist, per the report, said, I'm blown away. Whatever these creatures are building ground nests that are exactly like the great apes that we have in our zoos. And for me, that evidence is just incredible. It makes one think, last I knew, there are no great apes that are known to be in the Pacific Northwest. I'd love to finish with this. There's been a lot of questions in this presentation, and my goal today has been to put many different questions in your mind so that now you know about the creature that is Bigfoot and Sasquatch, and you have now the mystery of Bigfoot in you. Perhaps you will take up the challenge to start to look in your own home area, to start to do research about the sightings that have been found. You can start doing that in places like bfro.net, see what the reports are in your area. Talk to places such as the Historical Society, and just start getting your name out there as the guy who thinks that there's Bigfoot in the area, and the reports will start to come to you. Trust me, they will start to come. And if you get any, pass them on my way. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation about the mystery of Bigfoot. Hopefully in our lifetime, we can figure out this great mystery together. Thank you for listening.